Welcome everyone. In this podcast, Cultivating Change, we're exploring sustainable food and agriculture programs across the Impact Hub network. And I'd like to welcome Mélanie from Impact Hub Phnom Penh to share a little bit about herself before we dive into the conversation. Welcome, Mélanie.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and I'm very happy to be here today.
Wonderful. Can you share a little bit about your role at Impact Hub Phnom Penh and a little bit also about why sustainable agriculture has been a big focus for your Impact Hub in Cambodia?
Sure. So I've been at Impact Hub Phnom Penh for the past 8 years, and over the years I've occupied different roles such as like program managers or so facilitator, mentor, and for the past 1.5 years I became the CEO of Impact Hub Phnom Penh. And agriculture has always been a big focus for our Impact Hub in Cambodia. First, I would say personally, because I am a daughter of a farmer actually, and it's a topic that is very close to my heart. I know how hard agriculture is and how hard it's going to become in the future. Like that now there is less and less, I would say, farmer, and the work is becoming more and more hard to do because of the land losing its fertility or the climate change. So I think it's a very, very important topic to take into, to put the means to actually solve this problem and to make agriculture more resilient and more accessible for also young people. And also, in Cambodia, agriculture is really the number one area of activity, and a lot of people still depend on agriculture to live and to survive also. However, we can see also a big exodus from the rural area to the city, so less and less people actually want to be farmer. And Cambodia is already a very hot country, so imagine also when climate change is happening, the condition is even harder. Additionally, Cambodia doesn't have a very well developed agro-processing industry in the country, so as a result, most of the crops that are grown in Cambodia actually are exported to the neighboring countries at a very low price, and then we buy back the transformed product. So being a farmer in Cambodia is actually a very hard job, and you actually have a lot of laws, and it's very hard to find a market for your product. So it's a very important topic that we want to actually focus on as Impact Hub Phnom Penh.
Fantastic, and it's really interesting to hear that you bring your own personal experience as well around the challenges and the hardships around this sector, and you're able to bring it into this context of Cambodia. It sounds like from what you've shared, there are a number of challenges that make this a very clear reason why agriculture is a big focus for Impact Hub Phnom Penh. And you shared a little bit about these challenges themselves. How is your Impact Hub addressing these challenges? In what ways have you been able to perhaps design programs or address some of the challenges that you see in this sector?
Sure. So at Impact Hub Phnom Penh, we have run maybe around 5 programs related directly to agriculture over the past years. We started first with the goal to support entrepreneurs who are supporting smallholder farmers to access to market, to have higher revenues, and to also at the same time use more sustainable practices. Most of entrepreneurs we supported were in the food processing industry, or also, for example, even creating essential oil or soap using the raw material from the farms. Then we moved towards supporting, now more recently, climate resilient entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurs who are using maybe technology or regenerative agriculture practices, or using renewable energy to process their food or to make the access to water more efficient for farmers. So we have a full spectrum, I would say, in terms of like supporting entrepreneurs in the agriculture sector. We don't directly work with the smallholder farmers. We work more with like entrepreneurs who have the capacity to empower more smallholder farmers.
Fantastic. That's quite a broad range of programs within that space. I'm curious, how do you go about making the decision to design a particular program? Do you engage with the community beforehand? How do you choose within this broad spectrum of different programs that you offer? How have you come about creating them, evolving them, and implementing them?
Sure. So at first, the goal was really like, how can we create a platform for these entrepreneurs to find like-minded people first, because they are quite lonely and they are coming from all across the country. And this is when we started meeting them, we realized that, wow, actually they are really the pioneer in the country, and they are really like a very, they have been doing a lot of work alone already, and now it's time to, I would say, accelerate them. Help them go out of this, what we call like dev valley, where they are not yet properly profitable, but a small help could actually make a big difference in their business. So a lot of the time, so we did some feasibility analysis. Also, we interviewed a lot of people to understand what are the real needs that these entrepreneurs need. And most of the time, what they need is they need some small machinery, like budget prototyping fund, we call it, machinery to buy the first machine that will enable them to test like a production, to start like processing the food that they're making, or like the new materials that they are like selling. And so this financial support is really important. Then the second part that we realize is this exposure to this entrepreneurial mindset. Because, for example, we work with also researchers who are doing research in agriculture, and one of them, actually, it's a very interesting story, was an expert in cricket, like cricket in Cambodia. He did some research for the past like 10 years, and his research was about like, can we find some alternative feed for the cricket? Instead of using chicken feed, can we use some cassava waste? So and create like a cheaper feed that is made from actually waste that is no use for now. And he measured each of the cricket one by one, the weight, the size, and also like how they're gonna last, like their longevity. And he found the perfect recipe. But this was supposed to stop here. But thanks to our program, we help them to think about, maybe there's a market for it. Maybe you can also like turn this research into a product. Like you have now the perfect recipe of the best product for cricket feed, and he jumped on it. Like he jumped on this opportunity, and now he became like an entrepreneur, and he has a team of like 5 people, and he's like selling cricket feed. He has also now doing more research on the cricket frass, like cricket poop, to be a fertilizer. And so he's now developing the whole cricket value chain, I would say, as an alternative protein food or so. So very interesting profile, I would say, and we are kind of like designing the programs based also on the target audience that we have.
Amazing. That's so inspiring, and to see very locally developed solutions being, coming out of Cambodia. And I'm very curious because, of course, your Impact Hub is in Phnom Penh, the capital city. How do you find these entrepreneurs that are working on, the future of agriculture, the future of food and sustainability? How do you find them in Cambodia and work with them?
Yeah, so very interesting question. So the first year we actually did a small hack, I would say, like very outside the box way of recruiting. So basically, this is a bit funny. My colleague wanted me to speak Khmer to advertise the program, and actually I dress up like with a Cambodian traditional costume and of the farmers, and then I spoke Khmer, and it was very funny video, and the video went viral, and we got like 250k views. And actually, like, the program was well known all across the country. It was like, because it was a very good hook as like I started, and then people like got into it, and then like everyone knew about this Dam incubator, and then it was very catchy name as well. But then, so this was the first way to reach out, I would say, broadly, a bit hacking experience, but then I didn't want to do it all the time. But then after, we managed to find the first cohort of like really passionate people, and then we use actually this network of alumni to recommend the next cohort and the next like peers that they know that they maybe used to meet at like agricultural cooperatives events. And then we also partner with NGOs, for example, like, such as HEX or SDC or Caritas or the local Khmer enterprise that also have very good network in the agriculture sector. So we use also the network. And I can tell you some story, like one of our actually entrepreneur never used a computer before, and he had to fill out the form. And so we actually put a phone number, and he called us. He's like, "Can I apply? But I don't know how to use the computer." And then we say, "Yeah, no, try to find someone who can type for you." So he wrote all the answer on a sheet of paper, and then he gave it to his friend, and she typed for him, and then he passed, and we interviewed him, and we taught him how to use Zoom. We taught him how to actually like also use all the digital tools, the Excel and all of this. And yeah, like this was an amazing success story. And after, when we went to visit him and we see where he's actually coming from, we are like, wow, this guy is a real like fighter, like a very like resourceful person, I would say, and we really want to grow and to learn as well.
That's so inspiring, and I think that it comes down to this this ability to really find these entrepreneurs on the ground, even when they might not see themselves as entrepreneurs initially or digitally connected and all of these things. That's such a hilarious story of how you achieved fame and celebrity status in the agriculture industry, but it worked, right? And then now you have this referral system which enables, continuous connection. That's so cool. And you had mentioned the Dam program. What does that mean? What does that word mean in Khmer?
So it means Dak mean like planting, and Dam mean growing. So so when we made this become the sign actually of the Dynam program. So every time we were doing a photo, like we plant and then it grows.
Beautiful. And so I know you've mentioned that program, and there's also another program that you've run, the Khmer Agriculture for the Future.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit more about that program too?
Yes. So this is a more recent program that we just started right now, where the goal is to find entrepreneurs who are adopting climate resilient agriculture practices, either in the supply chain or either supporting smallholder farmers to integrate these practices in their work. And the goal is also to expose some of these entrepreneurs who might not so familiar with these practices, to understand first what is it, to expose them to what is, for example, regenerative agriculture. This is like a fascinating concept that personally, I even if I am a daughter of a farmer, actually, I didn't know this before. And one of our entrepreneurs a few years ago was really a pioneer of this in Cambodia, and really promoting this no-till approach, and having cover crops who can maintain the fertility of the soil, and having the carbon dioxide sinking it in the soil instead of emitting out. This is a simple, I would say, concept, but not so many people know about it. And for me, when I first discovered this concept, I was like, but why not everyone do it? It's so obvious that we actually should all adopt regenerative agriculture. But the cost of switching to another way of doing is very high, I would say, mentally and sometimes also like physically. So sometimes you don't have the right machinery, sometimes you don't have the right, like these products are very heavily taxed by when you imported them. So there is the whole ecosystem that needs to be developed as well. It's not just entrepreneurs who can make a big difference. You also need like the customs to accept like a lower tax on this machinery, and you need to develop the whole supply chain basically. So it's a lot of work, but the entrepreneurs we have supported are really the pioneer in this area, and now with this program we hope that we can also more mainstream these practices and make it the norm basically.
Absolutely, and I can see even the breadth of the types of programs that you're running, direct entrepreneur support, which is needed, as well as these market systems transformation efforts that support the entrepreneurs to succeed in these ecosystems. That's really fascinating and really inspiring. I'm curious, we've talked a little bit about maybe more of these success stories, and I'm curious to hear if you encountered any challenges along the way during these experiences of designing and running these programs, and how did you overcome those?
Sure. So I would say like one of the main challenge that we face is like at first we were designing our program more like in a masterclass way, where we were saying like, okay, I think they have some gaps here, so we need to teach them this, and then they join online and then they learn. But then we realized like actually this doesn't work with this kind of people, because they are coming from all across the country, and they have different reality that we don't understand. And so let's start by doing a diagnostic. So we started now integrating diagnostic at the beginning of each of the program. And because sometimes these entrepreneurs don't know what they don't know, and very hard to tell them like what's your problem. And so now that we do this diagnostic, it helps us like ask a lot of questions, and when we ask the question, they realize like, oh, actually, yeah, you're right. Actually, I don't know about this. Oh, this one is actually a good point. Like, let me think more about this. So this one was really important to help entrepreneurs figure out what their pain points were. But the second one was, we were asking them like, what can we really do to help you? And then they told us, we want to hire your team because your team is so good. And then we're like, but they're working for Impact Hub, so I'm not sure they can actually quit and work for you. But actually there is a very interesting point. And then this is where we come the idea of developing what we call adoption program, where basically our team go and stay for 3 days and 3 nights with the entrepreneur. And who goes in our team? It's basically usually one comm person, one finance person, and one business development person. And what they do during these 3 days is they work full-time for entrepreneurs. And they will work on all these small fixes that can have a big impact later. So for example, like in redesigning a packaging, in writing a story about us in their website, in taking photo shoots of a product, or in like writing a job description for a salesperson, because sometimes they don't know what this person should do. And maybe like fixing their financial spreadsheets. So these small things actually could have a very big long-term impact. And for us, it takes us 3 days, but for them, it might take them 3 months. And just mentoring enough is not enough. So this small consultancy is really helpful, I would say. And finally, we realized as well that for us, it was so important also to be there and to understand the reality. And then we realized that, oh my God, the access to internet is so hard. The nearest city is actually 2 hours away from your village. Or maybe your parents actually don't really support what you're doing, and you have to face additional barriers. So it helps us then to be more empathetic and more to design better like the rest of the support that we provide to them. And at the same time, they feel so supported. They feel that we really care for them, and it strengthens our relationship with them. And for our team members, they love it, like because they see like their skills are very useful straight away, I would say.
I can imagine that's so rewarding on both sides, and building that empathy is such an important step, and sometimes we tend to overlook that when we're designing programs. And I think that's a really good example of how it can really pay off in strengthening those relationships, but also designing the program based on those needs. And I love this example that you shared about these mini consultancies and this very targeted direct support, because sometimes that's exactly what's needed to create a very, very big shift and a big change. Really good lessons in what you've been sharing and experiencing. Very cool. I wanted to also hear a little bit more about how you go about measuring the impact across your programs. So you have this portfolio really of agriculture and sustainable food programs and agri-food programs. How do you go about measuring the impact for each of those programs and also across these portfolio of interventions and programs?
Yes, so I think for us, like the main, I would say, like impact measure that we track across all our program is our NPS score. So Net Promoter Score. We ask like this simple question: how likely are you to recommend this program to another entrepreneur in the same sector? And basically, if they say 9 or 10, we know that they're gonna tell every friend that they must join this program because it changed their life. If they say 8, 7, it means like they like it, but they might not actively tell everyone. And if they say less than 6, they might hate it, but they don't dare to say it. So for us, like we really want to have the highest number of 9 and 10, and to do so, like we make sure that we really make a program that is very impactful, like that they feel like it was useful, it was not a loss of time, they actually got the problem solved, they feel like their confidence increased, they feel like they're actually, they feel more confident in running their business, they understand better also some business terminology. Maybe we also evaluate their hope in the future as well. And we also measure more like quantitative metrics such as their increase of revenue, the increase of staff, or the increase of customers. And finally, we also try to capture some stories of change for these entrepreneurs. So we hire always like a professional video maker to go and spend also like 2 days with entrepreneur and to do a kind of mini documentary following them along their daily life and interviewing also the smallholder farmers that they are supporting, so that we can also have this image capture, I would say.
Nice. A really beautiful balance of the quantifiable impact metrics as well as these really rich stories. And I'm sure these stories also help support this amplification of what these farmers are doing and what these entrepreneurs are doing. And it can be shared with the broader community and ecosystem as well.
Yes, exactly. And for them, it's also super, like it's kind of a gift also for us to have this like 2-minute video like showcasing them in a more like movie way, I would say sometimes, and it gives them also more credibility. And I remember one of entrepreneur, like when we also gave him the first certificate that is part of the program, he said like, so I am an entrepreneur now? I'm like, yeah, but you always have been an entrepreneur. And then he was so proud, and he was so proud to show it to his family, and also like family recognition is also very important. And when we put them on the stage, when we celebrate what they're doing, they also, I would say, have more support like from peers, and people understand better like why they are doing what they do, because we also help them with their storytelling, with like their why, and it's easier for them after to find some believers in their own community. But before, we were a bit skeptical about what they were doing.
Oh, I can really understand that from the perspective of also, I live in Thailand, and Also, I'm a founder of an Impact Hub in Indonesia, and the profile of farmers in the farming industry and agriculture industry, it's not the most, I guess, a place where everyone celebrates a lot of work. It's so important to our economies, but it's not as popular as it used to be, and there's not as much recognition for those working so hard in this sector and in this space. So the more that we can play this role of advocating and increasing that credibility and celebrating, the farmers who feed us, the entrepreneurs that enable us to access food and transform these food systems, I think that's such a big role for us to play. And this is such a good example of how you're doing that in Cambodia. And that's having very transformative impacts for the whole sector and community, not just the entrepreneur as well.
Exactly, yes. And I want to share a last story. One of our entrepreneurs actually started his company at the border of Thailand. He was a translator for a Japanese deminer. So this Japanese deminer was removing all the landmine at the border of Thailand. It's because of the war of Cambodia, there is still a lot of landmine. And because of this landmine, this land are actually unusable, otherwise you can die. And so they were doing these big demining efforts, and he was a translator for him. And then after they removed the mines from this area, they were so now what? How can we help our people to actually make a living from it? So they started planting trees and fruits trees, and then 5 years, 6 years later, we're okay, now we have a lot of trees, but we have a lot of fruits, but we sell the fruit solo, and we are there's nothing happening after this. So they then brought some machinery from Japan, and then they brought some also yeast from Japan, and they started doing a mango rum and mango liqueur and jackfruit rum as well, and jasmine rice liquor as well. And we started distilling it there, and also doing some dry fruit. And the incredible news is they have been existing for almost 6 years now, and in maybe 2 months ago they won the award of the best rum in Paris actually, and it was such a big highlight, and they were so proud, and we are so happy for them. And a few months before, we help them we do all the packaging to be much more beautiful and attractive to the market. So this was a very big success story, and it shows also the long-term commitment that these entrepreneurs have, from the first time they remove the first landmine to now getting a product that is recognized also worldwide for its quality. It's such a beautiful story.
Oh, it really is a beautiful story of regeneration and transformation in a space that most people probably gave up on, that area, that land. And wow, that must make you feel so proud to play a role in bridging that impact and supporting them to find that potential and live in that potential, and to showcase that to the world, not just to Cambodia, but the rest of the world. That is so cool. I'm getting goosebumps, such incredible stories. I know that those who are listening to this podcast, they might be exploring programs themselves. And, everyone is touched by food systems. Whether you are on the production side or the consumption side, we're all impacted by food systems. So this is quite a interesting topic, is how do we support entrepreneurs better in these sectors all around the world? And for those who are listening, what sort of advice would you leave with them, or one thing that you'd want to share with our audience, whether that's some next steps that you're taking in this space, or advice and tips that you would give around those who might be considering designing support for these kinds of programs? And
yes, I think these people that are working in this sector need believers, need emotional supporters at first. I think it's something that we sometimes underlook, and this is beyond financial support, beyond technical support. They need some emotional support, and we can really see like when we invest in building a real relationship with these entrepreneurs, like it's something beyond our imagination that can happen. Like we really create a real trust relationship with them, and it can then be transformative in the very long term as well. It helps them get more confidence in themselves, and also then inspire others to take action and be more confident in themselves and be the role model with their own community. So I think it's a small seed that we sometimes like plant into their mind, like that you can be a confident entrepreneur, you can be the one who can create jobs in your community, you can be the one who solve the problem that you see locally. And it's something that we need to water, something that we need to nurture, and the support of this kind of entrepreneurs doesn't happen in 3 months, 6 months. A lot of the time, actually, we plant these first seeds of support, I would say, like 3 years ago, and now they grow to a new stage, and we are now here also to help them to reach another level of a business. So I feel like sometimes I feel like us as ecosystem support. Sorry, I feel like sometimes us as like entrepreneur support organization, we are like kind of like human gardeners who are like also investing in like growing the potential of these people, and when it's in agriculture, it's even more like fruitful, I would say. So yes,
I love that analogy of the gardener. I use that often, and it's such an important role to play. Thank you so much for sharing these stories. I have one last bonus question. I'm very curious to hear, what are the next steps for Impact Hub Phnom Penh in this space of food and agriculture? Do you have any exciting programs coming up or ambitions to keep growing the impact that you're creating?
Yes, no, definitely. I think we just opened one door, and we want to build our knowledge, our network in this sector. And for us now also, it's beyond supporting the entrepreneurs. We want to also support the team of our entrepreneurs, because we realize that as they grow, the founder matter, but it's also the skills of the team that is very important. And a lot of the time, the support is directly related to the founder themselves. But if they don't have a good sales team, if they don't have a good marketing team, a good financial team, it doesn't work. So we want to also like develop more programs to support the key function in the business, and we want to also to I would say make adoption program mainstream, like that we always have this element of like immersion within these communities, and we want also to work more with indigenous entrepreneurs, and who especially coming from like the east part of Cambodia, the northeast part of Cambodia. We already work with some of them, and they have amazing like techniques and way of growing the land, and sometimes is actually like the most advanced way to preserve the land. And so we want to also put some more spotlight on these like regenerative practices that are from the indigenous community.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing these really inspiring stories, but also lessons and really key learnings that others can take forward. Really appreciate your time, Mélanie.
Thank you.
Take care.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.